You know, to start this video off, I'm going to say that I absolutely love Final Fantasy VIII music because it is calm, it's relaxing, it is kick-ass at times, and last but not least, I should say, is that it makes for great video background music. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the weekend report for this game that we play. And we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy VIII. We're going to be talking about what has been happening on the JP side, and also a few other things. And since I know it annoys some people, even though I promise in this one I'm going to throw a time code in at the bottom for people who want to jump to the actual Wotv stuff. So a couple things. First, this weekend, just personally, went to the Final Fantasy XIV 10th anniversary fireworks show, posted a post on my YouTube channel about it, and it was absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Maybe there's a way I can actually share some video and whatnot from it, because it was just really cool, and I want to talk a little bit more about it. Secondly, this is Monday. I'm recording this on a Monday, as you can see. A few changes have been made, and a few more changes are going to be happening this week. Actually, right now is normally the time when I am streaming, and I'm just not streaming tonight because there's something important this week that I am going to just be taking a little bit time off on Monday to kind of think about some stuff and get some stuff ready. And I don't know, maybe I'll reveal a little bit about what is happening in another video later this week. But in the meantime, I'm going to leave some air of mystery about what it is. But suffice to say, I want to spend some actual time making sure that it is done properly. So now that I wasted some people's 2 minutes and 30 seconds of their precious lives, let's get into talking about Wotv. So Wotv this week is basically going to be Irving. Irving's update will be happening on September 1st. Very unlikely that there's going to be anything else. So that's not until Friday. So do not expect any extra detail on Irving until probably Wednesday, with banner news on Thursday. I'll probably do an update on Wednesday, again, just because my major event is happening this Thursday. He continued to be coy about. So yeah, I am going to be getting that news up on Wednesday and probably doing a little bit of information and streaming on Friday, although not at midnight, just because, again, Thursday is kind of off for me, and after what happened with Squall, no. I don't care what you guys say if I'm lucky or not. Just no. So anyway, Porcelain Tower is finished on JP, and I think that most people are curious about what has been happening with the FF8 units. And Final Fantasy VIII units have kind of started to settle in the minds of JP players about how they are. And I'm here to say that, first off, Rinoa. Rinoa seems to be the really best unit from the collaboration so far. There's a lot of caveats into that statement, probably, to just because we haven't seen everything that comes with it. Like, literally, I do believe that the box event piece of equipment could change the overall evaluations of characters. But for now, from initial testing, especially Peachin's videos, the King Bradley people are going to be insanely happy with how good Rinoa is. In combination with Dialdo or Melnia, it is a really, really powerful team, mainly because Earth is just such a defensive team that it can actually just really, really push a lot of damage. But at the same time, it's very, very damage resistant between all of the units it has. And that's something that I think I have underestimated, which is one thing I want to bring up. Because Rinoa, and this is not a particularly good example because our Rinoa is not fully built yet, but people's built Renoas are hitting AoE resistance of over 100, which has like pushed down in terms of testing. The damage you can do against this girl with an AoE is roughly 2 points of damage. Now that leaves her incredibly vulnerable to single target damage, as you would expect. But that's really just super not, how do I say it? It's just not an issue if you're looking at how much value you're getting out by just making sure that with heavy focus on a different unit in the party, Renoa is fairly bulletproof just because of the high amount of AoE resistance that she can stack already. And her heals are powerful enough that she can keep other units alive too. Her haste and hate manipulation, her dispel, her barrier off of Grimoire Master. This is the best unit of the collaboration by far. So far. Poor choice of words, maybe, but in all honesty, yeah, Renoa turned out to be the best unit. And while I think that the friend unit isn't necessarily the best version of her, even from my level 79 version of this character, this almost essentially insta-casting her abilities with casting time already. Just fantastic. I mean, we're going to talk about Squall in a second, and I know there's a ton of negativity about Squall, and I want to bring a little bit of reason to talking about this, about that unit. But yeah, Renoa also on most of the websites, such as Game8 and Ultima, has pulled ahead in terms of the ranking into like double S category out of triple S category. And I have to agree. I think that this unit is super. The big winners out of this are anybody who heavily invested in Earth. But again, I do think because of some of the vision cards that cross over, that Earth and Water is still an interesting combination with this character too, especially with how strong Summer Glassy is. There's some interesting stuff I think you can do with this character and a semi-high defensive team. And I kind of want to do a little bit of exploration, but since I've said before, I'm just super happy that Renoa came to the game because, again, one of my favorite Final Fantasy emails characters. She's doing just fantastic. So next, we'll talk about Squall. And I know immediately that some people are going to be super down on Squall because Squall has, to say the least, somewhat of a clunky kit. And I was talking about previously about how I think that this friend unit is a little borked. Like the friend unit is fairly defensive, and Lionheart as a sword is just not an offensive sword. Like it starts you with initial AP, great, higher chance of critical, but the critical really is just giving you a higher, giving you a defense boost for a turn, which is pretty underwhelming. And slash attack up. This character is essentially a bizarre, and really highlighting that word, an absolutely bizarre unit in terms of construction. I don't get for a single second that anybody had any clue what they were doing, because Squall is just this jack of all trades, but definitely not a man. So you look at him and like 3 different damage types from his sub jobs, which is not impressive in any way, shape, or form. You look at just the weird amount of like AP consumption down, lightning attack up, reaction block rate of only 20, and AoE resistance of 10. And it makes this really weird unit where like he's not defensive enough to really be super impressive. And yeah, this is in my training team, which is definitely not built properly. So if we go over to the lightning team, see what he looks like there, a little bit better, but none of his resistances actually work out to be defensive enough to be really impressive or make a big enough difference. And that's probably the disappointing thing. So when you try the offensive abilities of this character, it again is underwhelming for the friend unit. Because again, you're looking at half offensive with things like Chaos Bahamut and a fairly defensive VC on the front with 2 attack boosts in there and a pendant that is again, or a TMR that's again essentially, well, what was it? Debuff defense resistance and haste, which sure, haste. And all of this, I think, is just really ugly to portray Squall as potentially being a little bit brawly, but still offensive. And his honeycomb barrier, like, it requires what I'm feeling like a very specific build with some kind of hate generation on him, because he doesn't have it. I'm not here to say that Squall's kit is the best, as it isn't. But I don't think it's cataclysmically as bad as some people say. And part of that is also because I think, I've not built mine yet and not being able to fully test out my envisionment. I think that the combination of Bridal Alaya plus Lightning plus Squall is just strong enough and consistent enough right now with Bridal Alaya. And again, Bridal Alaya is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And Squall is essentially almost a bit of a bait character to force characters forward to bring them more in range to Bridal Alaya and Lightning, dealing out more damage first. Squall is a bit of a support in my case, and in the example of the friend unit and equipment, a horribly mismanaged character. I do want to also say on record, I would be incredibly happy to the character get buffed out the wazoo, and I imagine that JP players are also a little bit ticked about this, because he's just not as good as you would expect from costume. And that maybe my just summarizing point. If this character was 90 cost, I'd probably be more okay generally for the stats and everything. But for a 100 cost unit, this is underwhelming. Not terrible, again, because Lightning is just so strong, and this is still an updated character that can bring some stuff to Lightning to get potentially more consistent. And if it's more consistent, that's just better in my eyes, as opposed to you win some, you lose some. But yeah, Rylai is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So on balance of probabilities, yeah, for people looking forward, I would, especially like, I guess, globalers, this is for this match. Look for a serious improvement in Squall when he comes out, because at this point, absolutely not worth going all the way to pity, which sucks. This is the main character. This is Final Fantasy VIII. A lot of people have been waiting for 8 for so long, but definitely not the worst by any means. Totally usable and in an incredibly strong element, and I will stand by that. So deal with that what you will. Anyway, to close out, because for this video, I'm just looking at the time and we're not completely out yet. I want to talk about one thing that happened last week that might be an interesting heads up for globalers, which was an arena event last week. Seeing if I can scroll through and find out where the heck it was in here. No, that's about the limit burst. That's that. Still about the limit burst. That's guild battle. That's FF8. Ah, darn it. I think it was this. But anyway, there was a really interesting arena week the following week where basically it was completely hard capped on the number of refreshes you could do per day. Like you could do a total of 5 refreshes per day without having to use any of your resources, lapis, or anything like that. And if you were up to the total 5 that you could do, so like you could do what, 25 or 30 in a day, that was it. That was the most players could do. And I want to go on record as saying that that was probably one of the more cool and exciting arena weeks we've had ever. So many arena weeks is just the same thing. Who can spend the most? Who can just auto the most? Who can develop a computer program to essentially farm the most points? It's boring in that sense and not at all remotely interesting anymore, especially because the patterning of how arena has just never really changed that much. But this limited week was kind of fun for a once in a while thing, because it put a lot of people on similar like fighting ground, and it was really just make best team you could, try and maximize the amount of points, and everyone was a little more level playing field, which again is just really cool, and I kind of want to see more of that, if at all possible. Not every week, not even every other week, but once a month might be kind of just exciting enough to drive people a little bit more interested back to Arena. As it is for JP right now, as you can see, it's reverted to what it originally was. The rewards were also a little bit better the previous week, with even like UR scrolls based on how well your ranking was. I ranked from about 1,000 to 5,000 in there, which was actually a fair competition, just to try and stay in that range. I got 20 UR scrolls, which was a nice extra way of getting it. Not a ton of resources, but it's a little thing, and it was kind of fun for it. And I've said fun too much. So anyway, that is the week recap from JP. Cool arena week. Stuff going on my side, but Renoa has definitely pulled ahead for the best FF8 unit, but we'll see if that still holds true at the end of this week. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.